All right, welcome to our Erev Shabbat Parashat class. It is Shabbat. It is Parashat Shabbat Bimidbar, the book of Bimidbar. However, we're going to talk today because we are on the brink of the holiday of Shabuot. So let's talk about it. What about this name? What is the name of this holiday? And it's an interesting question because one could ask that on really all of the three Regalim. And there's something unique about the three Regalim as opposed to perhaps some of the other holidays, Rosh Hashanah, Kippur, that have a couple of names to them, and the rabbinical holidays that have one. But the Shalosh Regalim each have a set of names that we are familiar with. We know them by. They each have what their primary name is. If you just go in calendar order, this Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot, they each have, of course, their name that indicates the event that took place. We have Pesach, Zman Herutenu, Day of our freedom. Shavuot, upcoming in a few days, Zman Matan Toratenu, we receive the Torah. Sukkot, Zman Simchatenu, connecting to, of course, the clouds of glory, which is indicative of the Mishkan and the Simcha that was as a result from that relationship with Hashem. We have the activity done on the holiday. Pesach, Hag HaMasot, we performed that Mizvah. Shavuot, Hag HaBikurim. They brought the Korban of the new wheat offering in the Bet HaMikdash, which is called, the famous two loaves called the Bikurim. Torah calls it the Bikurim offering. And Sukkot was simply called Hag, because of the great celebration that ensued and took place on the holiday of Sukkot. And then, of course, you have the name that aligns to the agricultural period during that time in Eretz Yisrael, which is Pesach, not yet too much going on. Chodesh HaAviv, it's seasonal, right? Spring. Shavuot coming up, Hag HaChasiyat. Torah names it after the harvest time. And then, of course, Sukkot, on the back end of that business agricultural cycle, Hag HaAsif, when you collect and you reap all the profits of your agricultural success. However, there is one name, one added name, that for Shavuot you can say tips the scale. And that is the name called Aseret. Now, I know you'll stop me in my tracks and say, 1 second. We know that on Sukkot, we have a day on the tail end called Shemini Aseret, which is interesting because in some respects, it's its own self-contained entity. In other respects, it's part of Sukkot. Fine, it's called Shemini Aseret. And you have even the day of Pesach, the seventh day of Pesach, in Parashat Re'eh, the Torah says, "V'yom ha'shivi'i aseret l'Adonai Elohecha lo ta'aseh melacha," and that's referring to the seventh day of Pesach. However, there's just one single mentioning of part of both those holidays as Aseret. The holiday of Shavuot, never referred to in the Torah Shebichtav and in the written Torah as Aseret, however, not only referred to, but constantly, and we'll say even always just about, referred to in Torah Shebe'al Peh and rabbinic literature, in the Mishnah, and the Gemara, and the Midrash, as one name, and that's called Aseret. So what's up with that name? What does that name mean? Why is it called that? What's the connection to Hag Shavuot? And there's some simple translated Hebrew possible meanings of that. Aseret means a celebration. There are places in Tanakh that that's what it means. Aseret, and we know basic Hebrew, la'asor means to stop. Stopping. What does that have to do with Shavuot? So the Sforno has a very interesting explanation, and he says that after Yetziat Mitzrayim, Am Yisrael, of course, they're marching through the desert, and they stopped, put everything down, by the command of God, came to a halt, talking about over 2 million people, right at the foot of Mount Sinai, and they encamped there, and as if time ceased, nothing else mattered. They were super hyper focused on Kabbalat Torah, on meeting God on Har Sinai and receiving his gift to the Jewish people and mankind, that is the Torah, Aseret. They stopped right there. So that's the Sforno's explanation based on that root word. There is the explanation of the Ramban, and I'll call it a more famous explanation. And that is that, and this is mentioned by numerous other Mefarshim, but the Ramban may be the first. And that is that indeed, Shavuot, in a certain manner, has a similar function as the Shemini Aseret. In other words, you can say, as Shemini Aseret is the closure to the long holiday, the 8-day holiday of Sukkot, so too Shavuot is the closure, so to speak, of the holiday of Pesach. Because did you ever take notice of the fact that there is no date in the Torah for Shavuot? It simply is an attachment to Pesach by virtue of Sefirat HaOmer. That's the bridge that takes us from Pesach to Shavuot. Shavuot Tispor La, count 7 weeks, and then, or another place is Hamishim Yom, and then Hag Shavuot Ta'aselecha, and then celebrate this holiday. So that it almost is like you can say that the entire Omid period we've just almost finished experiencing is almost like a Hol HaMoed, a very long Hol HaMoed from Pesach until ending with Hag Shavuot. And even though we call them Shalosh Regalim, 3 separate holidays, and they are for almost all purposes, but conceptually speaking, you can say that Shavuot is the Aseret, is the end of the stoppage of the extended long holiday period of Pesach. Now, Ibn Ezra takes that to a different level altogether. He says that it's a fascinating idea. He says that it's necessary to call it, all the Hakamim, not the Torah, but the Hakamim called it Aseret, because one could have made a mistake with that term in the Torah, Shiva'ah Shavuot, 7 weeks, and counted as Shavuot as in a weekday count. Sheshet Yemei Bereshit, from, as we call it, Sunday to Shabbat, Yom Rishon to Yom Shvi'i. The same mistake that the Baitusim and the Sidukim made, where they called, because they denied Torah Sheba'al Peh, Memachorat Shabbat, start the Omer count from the day after Shabbat. We know what it means, the 16th day of Pesach, which is the day after the first day of Yom Tov of Pesach. They counted it in Machorat Shabbat as the literal meaning of the words in Torah Shebechtav, Sunday. They started Sefirat HaOmer. Lest you make that almost heretical mistake and say Shiva'ah Shavuot means count starting Sundays, which would mean that Hag Shavuot would always end up on a Sunday after you counted 7 weeks from Sunday to Shabbat. Don't think that. Rather, Aseret. Aseret tells you that just like Shemini Aseret starts from the counting of Sukkot, so too Shavuot starts with the counting of the Omer and the beginning of Pesach. It's related to Pesach. Okay, so we have this concept that there's an intrinsic connection between Pesach and Shavuot. Now, simply, if you just look at that connection, what you would say is that, okay, Sefirat HaOmer. Sefirat HaOmer, what are we doing? We're counting 1, 2, 3, 4 to 49 upwards, moving up, and all the conceptual ideas that come with this towards Zman Matan Torah, towards receiving the Torah. And so there's a forward connection between Pesach going up to Shavuot, so to speak. But the problem with that is that regarding the theory that Aseret relates to Shemini Aseret, Shemini Aseret is not something that we build up to from Sukkot. It's Aseret, the end of Sukkot. It connects backwards to Sukkot. So not that it should be more like, not Pesach is building up and connecting forward, so to speak, to Shavuot. Rather, Shavuot connects backwards to Pesach, but it doesn't seem to work out that way. So really, it behooves us to try to understand that based on this name Aseret, how does Shavuot, which is the Matan Torah, where we see the Torah Kedosha, connect in retrospect backwards to Pesach? Rather, how does Pesach connect forward to Shavuot? Because if you're going to use the name Aseret, and we're going to utilize this concept that Aseret is the ending of a long period of celebration, this Chol HaMoed, if you will, from Pesach to Shavuot. So we have to explain not how Pesach is connected to Shavuot, rather Shavuot, the Aseret, which ends the period of Pesach, and how does that connect back to Pesach? That's our goal. And I want to offer a very simple idea, but an idea critical to Jewish faith, thought, idea, and concept. And that is as follows. Let's think about the Torah. The Torah is something that's very, very attractive to the world at large. Torah is a literary mastery. It's God's book. And therefore, there are, for now, centuries and millennia, since it was received on Har Sinai, Gentiles and nations and peoples and cultures who study the Torah. There are scholars who study the Torah, professors who study the Torah. We know that, at least in terms of the Bible, Torah shebichtav, it's embraced by other religions. Christianity, those Christian scholars know Torah shebichtav, unfortunately, better than most of us or even Jewish scholars, right? There's a craze going on right now in Korea, studying the Gemara, the Talmud, Torah shebe'al peh. The Torah is intellectually challenging. It's full of depth. It has it's a philosophical concepts and ideas. And of course, it's vast. It's unending, an unending ocean of knowledge. But how many of the above reasons are the purposes of studying Torah? The answer is absolutely zero. Not one of them. Not because it's intellectually challenging, and that's because it's philosophically in depth, and not because it's diverse in its ideas, and none of the above. Because with any of those motivations, the Torah would come to a disastrous halt, and Torah observation would just collapse. Because then, when it becomes difficult or inconvenient, we'll stop practicing it. When it becomes boring, we'll stop studying it. When it doesn't feel very practical, we'll be cynical and we'll reject it. The Torah requires something else to survive and to be studied and to be committed to. It requires a basis, a bedrock of faith. We say in the Pasuk, we read in the Mizmor, Hallelujah Adonai, Reshit Chochmah Yirat Adonai. The basis and foundation of the Chokhmah of Torah is fear of God, is faith of God. And Pirkei Avot tells us that any Chokhmah that is not preceded by Yirah won't take hold. Yirat Shamayim must precede Chokhmah. And there was a whole body of literature and different Sifrei Musar that speak about this concept. And historically, this is the way it works. That a nation who received the Torah, and for them to receive the Torah, the only way that would have been possible for that nation is would it have to have been a nation that first experienced Yetziat Mitzrayim, first lived through the Exodus, first witnessed Kiryat Yam Suf, first was able to stand at the shores of that sea after the waters came down and collapsed on the enemy and pronounced Adonai Yimloch Le'olam Va'ed. Only a nation for whom it could be said about V'ya'aminu b'Adonai Moshe Abdo. When that faith, based on their experience, which was a culmination of tradition passed down from their forefathers, was witnessed in that great moment, in those great miraculous times of Ma'amad Har Sinai, and they were embodied with this great faith, and they were imbued with this fundamental foundation of belief in God and prophecy and all the tenets of faith that come with that. Then they can and were ready to receive Torah. Torah requires that type of bedrock of belief in God and foundational tenets of Jewish faith. And without it, it's just an intellectual exercise. And therefore, as much as Pesach needs Shabuot to build up to it, Shabuot very badly needs Pesach Matan Torah very badly needs Yisiat Mitzrayim. The practice and commitment, the undying commitment of the Jewish people throughout history to the Torah Kedoshah through thick and thin was based on, and only based on, the Am Yisrael's undying faith and commitment to Borei Olam, to the creator of the world. And therefore, there is no way for Zman Matan Toratenu to have taken place and to have taken hold and to still be real in what we live and breathe if we didn't first have Zaman Herutenu, the day of freedom and the miraculous events of Pesach, which founded our faith in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And it's for that reason, perhaps, that Aseret became not the Torah name, but the rabbinical name, the name of exile for the Jewish people of the holiday of Shabuot, because that's the way that Shavuot, which symbolizes Matan Torah, survived, only because of the powerful foundational faith of the Jewish people in HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which all started backwards in the holiday of Pesach. Amen, Amen. Shabbat Shalom and Chodesh Tov.